9:30 p.m.
Good evening, I'm Chewie Lin on News 5 tonight.
There is a possibility that we would defer the adjustment.
Plans to cut vehicle growth may be delayed, possibly leading to more COEs. Also, the Transport Minister explains how the government and SMRT will split a $900 million bill to tackle MRT troubles. China gives rights activist Chen Guangcheng a way out of his dangerous situation, granting him clearance to study abroad.
I think I've done enough.
And meet the world's oldest graduate who's broken his own record. More certificates of entitlement or COEs may be made available in the coming months. Transport Minister Lui Tak-Yew says the Land Transport Authority is studying measures that may contribute to higher COE supply for the next 6-month period from this August.
Car buyers have been feeling the heat in recent months as COE prices have soared due to supply tightening. The latest bidding round alone saw COE prices reaching record levels. Prices for big cars went past the $90,000 mark, while smaller cars breached the $60,000 mark. But there may soon be some relief. The Transport Minister said he's asked the Land Transport Authority to study 2 measures. One is to possibly delay cutting the vehicle growth rate to 0.5% from the current 1.5% by August this year.
I think if we proceed with the plan as we had envisaged earlier, it will put quite a significant squeeze on the vehicle quota numbers. While we recognize that 0.5% is indeed the target that we want to achieve. So they will study very carefully whether we can exercise some flexibility in this regard.
Another possibility is to defer the clawback of COEs, which has been underway since April 2010. The clawback is to counter an oversupply of COEs between 2008 and 2009.
Well, industry players say that if the measures are implemented, the higher quota numbers will help to cool the COE market, but they do not expect the reduction in COE prices to be very significant.
If this adjustment had been taken much earlier, or rather this deferred adjustment has been taken much earlier, then of course the numbers would have been quite significant. We are almost at the last phase of that clawback. On its own will not really significantly impact the total volume of COE available.
Still, some potential car buyers hope the measures will be implemented.
The move is good that enable more people to buy car,
It helps because I think many people requires the need of a car, especially when they have young children.
Others felt boosting the COE supply would not be sustainable.
Singapore is too small a country to have too many vehicles. Improve our public transport. Make sure that it's good quality.
LTA is expected to complete its study on the possible measures by the end of the month.
Mr. Lui also says the government and train operators will spare no effort in making the rail system more reliable. Speaking at the groundbreaking ceremony for the Tuas West extension, Mr. Lui said this is a top priority.
Construction to make it easier to commute to the Tuas area has begun. 4 stations will be added to the East-West line starting from Joo Koon Station. They are Gul Circle, Tuas Crescent, Tuas West Road and Tuas Link. There will also be a 26-hectare depot.
Well, the Tuas West extension is expected to benefit more than 100,000 commuters daily. The 4 stations will be located close to offices and factories to help reduce travelling time by up to 35 minutes for many commuters.
Even as the rail network is being expanded, capacity will also be improved in the coming years. More trains are being procured. The Circle Line's capacity will be ramped up by 60%, with 24 more trains to be added progressively from 2015. This is 8 more trains than previously announced. The Transport Minister noted the concerns over serious train disruptions in recent months. He said SMRT will put in place a more robust system to anticipate potential faults and vulnerabilities in the system. On the recently announced $900 million plan to upgrade and renew aging assets, Mr. Lui said 2 main components will contribute to the costs. One is replacing the sleepers of the track, while the other is upgrading of the signalling system. He said the Land Transport Authority and SMRT are in the process of making sure that each party will pay a fair share of the costs.
Broadly speaking, I think the formulation is that infrastructural works come under the government, replacement of the operating assets come under the operator, although even within that there is a formula on how to share the cost.
On whether the costs will eventually be passed on to commuters as higher fares, Mr. Lui said fares are determined by the fare adjustment formula, which is being reviewed. Mr. Lui said fares will not be adjusted this year while the review is underway.
Well, still on MRT trains, SMRT is looking into making several improvements after its major service disruptions in December. This was revealed at the end of the third week of the Committee of Inquiry hearing.
The December disruptions put the spotlight on the way SMRT handled the situations. Director of Train Operations Sharin Abdul Salam told the committee that there are several areas of improvement SMRT is working on. One is a new dedicated communications team of train service controllers. A specific person will be in charge of giving information to passengers from the operations control center. Another is a public announcement guide for train officers. It'll spell out how soon train officers should announce the disruptions and what they should say. Another area being looked into, act sooner in telling passengers to get off the train. Instead of the current standard operating procedure of 45 minutes, it should be 30 minutes. The train operator is also looking into making small improvements. On December 15th, some passengers were left in darkness and complained of poor ventilation. Mr. Sharin told the committee a sign telling passengers to use the emergency intercom button if they need to speak to the train officer will be installed. This will allow passengers to inform the officer if they notice the lights or ventilation have gone off. There were other suggestions raised by the committee earlier in the day. This includes installing a sensor on MRT trains to detect if collector shoes, which pick up power from the third rail, are damaged. SMRT Projects and Technology staff Ng Peng Ho told the committee it would be useful, but he raised concerns that this might overwhelm train operators if they have too many indicators to monitor.
China has opened the door to resolving tensions over activist Chen Guangcheng. Beijing says Chen is free to apply to study abroad. U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton says she's encouraged by China's statement. Washington says China has agreed to move, quote, expeditiously to provide the necessary travel documents to Chen and his family. The developments come after Chen told U.S. lawmakers and news agencies that he was in great danger.
From Chen Guangcheng's hospital bed, details are emerging about his concerns over his safety and that of his family and supporters.
一个是我2天美国使馆的官员要来看我，他们不让进来，我2天没能见到他们。第二个就是我的朋友来看，想要来看我，然后被打伤。
Chen even managed to phone in to a U.S. congressional hearing on his case to appeal for help.
我想见见他。希望得到他更多的帮助。
Chen says he hasn't rested in 10 years and that he wants to go to the United States for a few months.
我非常的担心，好吗？
你非常的担心是吗？
非常危险嘛。
好的，好的。
China offered an apparent concession, saying that Chen can apply to study abroad. One of his supporters says Chen has an invitation from New York University.
陈光诚，作为一个中国的公民，他可以像其他的公民一样，通过正常的途径到有关的部门去办理有关的手续。
But the U.S. came in for strong criticism over how it handled the situation. Beijing has demanded an apology from Washington.
Of course, the United States continues to raise human rights because we believe that they are essential for every country to uphold.
It comes as new reports offer dramatic details as to how Chen may have reached the U.S. embassy after escaping house arrest. A New York Times account says the embassy sent a car to pick Chen up in an alleyway, even as Chinese authorities gave chase.
Well, after years of legal delays, the self-confessed mastermind of the September 11th terror attacks and 4 co-accused will be formally arraigned tomorrow before a military commission in Guantanamo Bay. Khalid, Sheikh, Mohammed and his co-conspirators will be charged with planning and executing the attacks that left nearly 3,000 people dead in New York, Washington and Pennsylvania. They face possible death sentences if convicted, but the trial itself could still be months away unless the defendants plead guilty. In Malaysia, details are emerging of a Dutch boy's 6-day kidnap ordeal. His parents say the kidnappers took care of 12-year-old Nayati Mudlia, fed him, and even allowed him to take a shower.
When they asked him, what would you like to eat, he asked, can I please have chicken rice?
Nayati's relieved parents threw a party for their community to celebrate their son's safe return. Nayati was returned unharmed after they paid an undisclosed ransom. His father also tweeted that Nayati's sister and mum slept in his bed on his first night back. And he posted this picture of a man who apparently ran across the street and tried to stop Nayati's kidnappers. He called John Daly a brave heart for what he did. Coming up on News 5, fires break out in 2 separate incidents, resulting in several people being hospitalized. And how this bird managed to get the police to send him home after he got lost. You're with News 5 tonight. Firefighters were kept busy today with not 1 but 2 blazes. 11 people were sent to hospital for smoke inhalation after a fire at a lift lobby in Marsiling. A blaze had engulfed the 11th floor of Block 4 in Marsiling Road this morning. More than 20 residents were evacuated and the fire was put out in 10 minutes. Well, also this morning, fire broke out at a terrace house in Seagull Walk off Upper Changi Road East. The SCDF found the kitchen on fire and the unit engulfed in thick black smoke. They rescued a 1-year-old boy and 2 women. The blaze was extinguished in 15 minutes. A youth who was part of a group accused of rioting at downtown East has been sentenced to 5 years jail and 6 strokes of the cane. Pui Te Feng, who is now 21 years old, admitted to causing grievous hurt to Darren Ng Wei Jie. The victim was 19 years old at the time and was from a rival gang. The court heard that a member from each of the gangs had bad blood and challenged each other to a duel at downtown East back in 2010. Pui, along with other teenagers, slashed and stabbed Ng with knives, choppers and a screwdriver. Ng died of multiple injuries. Pui also pleaded guilty to a separate charge of punching a Korean national at a nightclub earlier that year. Well, nearly 1 year since the general election, Minister for Information, Communications and the Arts, Yaacob Ibrahim, says he's seen changes in 2 areas in Singapore. Speaking to the media after a visit to Al-Kaf Mosque this afternoon, he said one is in the area of engagement, where the government has stepped up its outreach efforts. Secondly, he notes that more people are using new platforms that the government has created through social media, such as Facebook and Twitter, to get information and news.
I think the more important point is to be able to provide our point of view and also to allow constructive debate taking place. I think it is positive because we recognize that society has changed, right? And if society has changed, we also have to change according to the norms. But there are certain fundamentals that will never change. And then that is something we have to communicate also to the wider community.
Now, the most attractive jobs in Singapore are reportedly in the hospitality and recreational industries. This is according to an online survey by recruitment services provider Randstad, which polled 4,000 employees in December.
Nearly 4 in 10 respondents said the sector offers interesting job content, while 3 in 10 believed it has a pleasant working atmosphere. HR practitioners say the findings bode well for the service sector, which is seeking to attract friendly individuals who shine in customer service.
What's great about the hospitality industry is that you can start in customer service or in a waitress and you can then end up in general management. You can work across the globe, and they do offer training that will allow you to, diversify skill set.
Hotels say they've also seen success in retaining workers.
We create an environment that people do not want to leave. Now, sometimes our ladies and gentlemen find the grass on a little greener on the other side, greener pastures, and they tend to meander sometimes. But we have a reputation now in Singapore, and we have a club called the Boomerang Club. And we have over now 120 of our ladies and gentlemen who thought the grass was greener on the other side. They've gone off, and within a year to 2 years, they've come back.
The hospitality and recreational industries hire a significant number of foreign workers. With the government tightening up the numbers of such workers into the country, these sectors are expected to face challenges. Thus, HR practitioners say companies need to build on their employment branding in order to attract more local workers. The Randstad survey also showed that employees rank the financial health of a company as their top priority when choosing an employer. This is followed by long-term job security and competitive salary and benefits.
Well, he won't be looking for a job anytime soon, but an Australian man has become the world's oldest graduate for the second time. 97-year-old Alan Stewart graduated with his 4th degree in Lismore, New South Wales. This breaks his own record set in 2006 at the age of 91. Back then, the retired dentist earned a law degree, and this time he earned a master's in clinical science. Believe it or not, he says studying is easier now compared to 7 decades ago when he completed his first degree. That's with the aid of technology. He spends 2 hours at his computer each morning and afternoon for distance learning. Still, the lifelong student says this degree is his last.
I think I've done enough, and I just want to take life easy and do a bit of gardening and visit my family regularly, and that's how it goes for the time being anyway.
And with 6 children, 12 grandchildren and 6 great-grandchildren, he's got plenty to keep him occupied. Sports news still to come on 5, including the latest from what's called the biggest match in the Malaysian Super League. In business news, StarHub has booked a 28% jump in first quarter earnings to $88 million. This on the back of a 6% climb in group revenue. StarHub says its pay TV segment registered the highest growth in revenue. It's also expecting take-up on its pay TV services to be higher next quarter due to the UEFA Euro 2012 football competition. Social networking giant Facebook has set a price range for its US initial public offering, and it's asking for $28 to $35 per share. Facebook is trying to raise $11.8 billion, about 14.6 billion Sing dollars, by selling a 16% stake in the firm, and that would make this IPO the largest in IT history. And here are the market numbers. And we start sports with the latest from the Malaysian Super League. Singapore's Lions 12 are taking on Kelantan in Kota Bharu. Well, it's been a keenly fought match so far, with the Lions 12 dominating the home side. The score, though, remains at 0-0 in the second half. Kelantan started off brightly, though, winning a penalty in the 4th minute. Up stepped Kelantan's ace striker, Nosharul Idran Talaha. But Singapore's Hairul Nizam Jumaat justified his selection ahead of first choice Izwan Mabud with a brilliant save. The Lions, though, have had the best chances of the game. Shahril Ishak and Haris Harun forcing a double save from Kelantan keeper Khairul Fahmi. Haris then had a header cannon off the bar as the visitors continued to turn up the heat on the home side. Turning to Spanish football, there was a massive party on the streets near the Cibeles fountain as Primera Liga champs Real Madrid held their victory parade. Captain Iker Casillas tied a club flag around the statue, signaling the end of the 3-year stranglehold on the Spanish championship by their bitter rivals Barcelona. Real have lost just twice in La Liga this season and have smashed the league's scoring record with 115 goals.
Come on, Singapore! Come on, Singapore!
Well, back home, tomorrow is fight night at the Marina Bay Sands. At the weigh-in ahead of the Dragon Fire Championship boxing event, local boxer Mohammed and his Chinese opponent looked like they couldn't wait to square off. 7 fights are on the cards, and the star attraction Chris John arrived in style. The Indonesian is defending his World Boxing Association Super World Featherweight title, going up against Japan's Shoji Kimura. And we're hearing at least 4,000 tickets have been sold. Channel NewsAsia has launched a brand new app for iPad and iPhone users. It replaces an existing app which has racked up more than 500,000 downloads since its launch 3 years ago.
The new Channel NewsAsia app offers a more visual news experience. Users can choose to scan the news of the day in pictures, and the views are customizable. There's also a real-time news ticker.
News is to be consumed as and when you want it, and mobile devices allow you to do so at any time of the day and any place where you choose to watch the news. You're not tied to a certain location, say your office PC or your certain TV set at home.
And where the internet connection may be uncertain, users can choose to download content to read offline or bookmark it for later. More interactivity too, with a new poll feature that enables users to give their take on a current issue.
It's news on the go, and people can also join in the action. Users can now send in their pictures and news stories through this new app.
This feature lets users send in pictures they've taken. And for iPhone users, there's also a link to call the news hotline.
I think we are as good as all the other news apps in the market. Let's not forget, our app is also free.
You can download the app from the Apple App Store. Channel NewsAsia says it's improving the current Android version.
And finally, it's quite common for pets who get lost to find their own way home. But this budgie in Japan is now a media sensation because of the way he did it. Pico Chan escaped when his owner accidentally left the cage door open. He then flew to a nearby hotel where he was turned over to the authorities after landing on a guest. After about 2 days, the bird finally plucked up the courage to tell the astonished police officers where he lived.
Pico Chan, 住所はどこですか?
Pico Chan's owner says she taught him how to say his address because she had lost another budgie before. He's even able to recite his owner's telephone number. Well, obviously, Pico Chan is no bird brain. You've been with News 5 tonight. Good night.